Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, June 10th, here at St. Peter's. My name is Stephen Whaley. I'm the rector of our parish, and this is for our congregation and friends of St. Peter's to let them know where we are in our reopening in the midst of the COVID pandemic. This is just a synopsis of the work that we've been working on for over a month now to try to put together a protocol and submit to the bishop's office for approval. And we received that approval yesterday on the 9th, and so now we are beginning to orient our leadership and congregation on how we're going to open up. So I'm going to give you a synopsis of our procedures and parameters of worship and what Sundays will look like, and preparation for Sundays. So there's a bit of work that you'll have to do in order to let us know you're coming. Before I begin this process, one of the things I'm asking everyone to be mindful of is that this is a very stressful time, and we've put in a lot of work, a lot of planning in how to do this in a way that, to the best of our abilities, increases health and tries to guard the safety of folks who are going to be worshiping together at the church. And so because of that, it does mean that some of the things that we're accustomed to are going to be changed for a period of time for however long this first phase lasts, or second phase, really, technically. We're in the second phase of the pandemic. So depending on how long these things last, they are temporary changes, and they are necessary to help promote good health. And while it's not the way we've always done it, I ask you to take the mentality of a humble servant and don't stress out your rector. How about that? Let's just say that. I'm asking you to do that because it's very stressful to have to coordinate these things and do them in such a way that is accommodating to the most folks, but then also understand we're doing this to help keep folks as healthy as possible who might be immune compromised. And with that, we have to surrender some of our own individuality for the sake of the whole. And that's the mentality that I share with you today as I give you these parameters. To begin with, we're going to be opening generally to the congregation. I've got to do a few soft openings with some leaders in order to test out some of these procedures. And so the next 2 weeks we'll be doing that with some of the folks of the parish. And then our general opening will be on June 28th, Sunday. That's the last Sunday of this month. We're going to be in the parish hall still because we're working on the remediation up in the church nave, and we're getting closer to the final stages of that, but that's a whole other conversation. So we'll be in the parish hall, and on June 28th, we'll have two services, 8 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. In your weekly e-blast, you'll be receiving a link that we invite you to sign up for one or the other. Sign up for the 8 a.m. or the 10:30. The reason we're doing that is because we have been given a restriction, a 25% occupancy rate for our parish hall. And we've capped that at about 50 persons. That should accommodate a large number of our regular Sunday attendance, although our regular membership is actually higher than that. And so our spillover service will be actually for Wednesday at noon. So essentially we'll be having three services, an 8 a.m. Sunday, a 10:30 a.m. Sunday on June 28th, and then the following Wednesday is a spillover service for those who aren't able to make it on Sunday. If you're able and are interested in trying to come on the Wednesday service just because it's a little different, just know that it's going to be the same service as the Sunday 10:30 service. So it's right to with some music. And I'll get to how music has changed in a little bit. However, it's important for you to know that that's available for you. And if you can, leave the 10:30 service for other folks who can't worship on a weekday. What to expect when you come to St. Peter's and what you're going to be responsible for is signing up for one of those services using what we call Sign Up Genius. We'll send that link to you in our weekly e-blast, our email. For folks who aren't on the internet and have a hard time connecting in that way, we're going to reach out to those folks by telephone and making sure they're aware, and then we'll RSVP for them. But we're going to ask them to also make phone calls, so that doesn't completely become the responsibility of the office, because we do want for each person to also take that responsibility on themselves to let us know that you're coming to worship. The reason we're doing this is, again, to make sure that our numbers are fitting in the occupancy restrictions that we've been given. The other side of that is by knowing who was at that service. If we do find that there becomes a spread of the virus within a particular group, we can actually communicate that to other people who have been a part of that service on that particular Sunday, and we'll know within 14 days, where that spread came from. So it's a good statistics verifier for how we're doing health-wise at the church. So once you RSVP, you'll come to the church. There are going to be some, again, I'm asking you to have some patience and understanding about doing this for one another, doing these stipulations, these protocols for one another and for the health of others. One of the things that we're most concerned about getting negative feedback about is wearing masks. We are going to mandate masks. A lot of times, and it's become very politicized about people's rights and this sort of thing. And so there's a couple of ways that I'm asking you to look at this. One is from a Christ-like perspective of humility, in which you surrender your rights and your individual privileges and rights for the good of the body. That's the first and spiritual way. So I'm asking you to understand why we're asking you to do this from the perspective of wearing masks on behalf of other people. What we know medically is that the masks aren't 100% going to keep you healthy, but if you are asymptomatic, meaning you are carrying the disease, the virus, and you're contagious, it actually exponentially helps protect other people. If you were to expel the virus from your lungs, we are much more able to reduce the spread by keeping it from spreading broadly to other people. That's actually the mentality that civil leadership is trying to encourage, and it's essentially the idea of you taking care of other people if you are sick. And there are times where you can't know that you're sick. So that's the mentality we're going to go with. And if you have questions about that, please do call and ask. But we're going to be very much a stickler on that, at least during these first phases, until we get approval if the bishop should relax any rules. Some of the other things to be thinking about is spacing. We'll be spacing folks based on the social distancing, spacing of 6 feet, and having folks sit in family groups, same household family units as best as we can, and spacing out and reducing a lot of physical contact between family groups. As it comes to worship on Sunday mornings, I'll be wearing a mask, and so I hope you'll understand that it's not something that I'm asking you to do that I'm not willing to do myself. Again, spacing. Then also regarding worship, we'll be having communion with bread only until we get approval for the chalice to be distributed to the entire congregation. As an act of worship, I still have to consecrate wine, but that will be a very limited amount and reserved for the celebrant. And then lastly, one of the major components of worship is the peace, in which we express grace to one another. And that will still take place, but it will be in a much more restricted form. And it will be put back in the liturgy where it was in the ancient church, or the medieval church, in the 1600s, I should say, which is near the fraction anthem. So we will have the peace and an opportunity to express affection, but we'll be at a distance. The services of worship will, and I don't remember if I already said that we wouldn't have prayer books. Prayer books have become an issue of whether or not surfaces are able to transmit the virus. And so things like our prayer books and hymnals will be set aside for a period of time, and we will provide printed service bulletins for both the 8 o'clock and the 10:30 service. The 8 o'clock, y'all are not accustomed to having a full printed service, but in the light of this changing dynamic, I highly encourage you to purchase your own prayer book and bring that to the service with you and use that at home. I will, on the initial openings, provide some prayer books that you can take home from the church, but I invite you to actually take those prayer books home and bring them back and use them Sunday to Sunday. Maybe take a look at it, use it at home as well, and then have it for Sunday the next service, and that way we're not sharing books. Finally, I need to touch on music. The medical information that we're seeing really has changed, and whether or not congregational singing is a very high risk activity for spreading the virus. We do see larger aerosol expulsion from the lungs at a farther distance that does cause concern, and as a result of that, we have been instructed that we will greatly restrict congregational singing for this period of time. We will continue to have music that is instrumental, and we are able to have cantors, our interns, and sometimes choir members, to be able to sing. Gavin and I have laid these things out that we hope will still be an opportunity for us to have music at worship for a period of time that is restricted, but then ultimately open up, and if allowed, we'd like to maybe even try to do some singing outside. All of this has to do with airflow and within restricted confines and rooms, and the ability to spread the disease inside when there's no breeze and there's no air freshening and renewing on a consistent basis. So that is a parameter that we're very troubled by, but we're going to have to implement in terms of no congregational singing for this initial time period until we get a clear sense that it's not spreading in our community. That is a lot to take in, and so I recognize that, and it's an opportunity again for you to review what I've said and ask questions. I know this is troubling. I want to tell you that we will continue to broadcast our services as we learn how to do that, both in the parish hall, and then once we move back over to the church nave, we'll continue to broadcast, because there's always been folks who have needed this kind of technology at home because they weren't able to be in church. So I'm glad that we'll be able to continue that offering. And I also want you to know that if you're not able to, you don't feel comfortable yet coming back to worship, we completely understand. Please let us know. I will tell you that pastorally, it's been very difficult to reach out to everybody and to know who really needs to talk with me or to talk with Deacon Carol or some pastoral care. I think of you all frequently, but sometimes it's hard for me to know who really needs me or wants for me to call them. And I want you to know that I want to speak with you. And if for any reason I haven't had a chance to, please reach out to me, because I'll spend as much time as you need talking with you. It's just kind of difficult right now to keep up with everyone in this way. So please let me know if there are some things that I can do for you in particular, or if Deacon Carol can do those things as well. We're here for you to do that. For those of you who are really struggling, you don't need to come right now. It's okay. I want to see you as soon as possible and as soon as you can get to worship, but you stay healthy. Until we see you again, God bless you. I look forward to seeing you, and I hope that you are healthy and that you feel informed about how we're moving forward. And that if you have any questions, please either call or send an email, and we'll do our best to answer them. God bless you, St. Peter's. I miss you all terribly in my heart, and I hold you there every day in my prayers. And I cannot wait to see you all, and for all of us to be together both in the parish hall for worship soon and in the church nave when we get that work done as well. God bless you. Bye-bye.